Hey, what's wrong here? Am I streaming? Am I streaming? I don't know what happened. Boy, one of these days I might get this thing right. I don't know. But we can have fun trying, can't we? Let's see, I'm going to move this thin. Can I make that chat box smaller? All right. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Rag, Raven County Rag. Hadn't had many viewers the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, but we expect to, when the word gets out, everybody be happy to see us and want to hear what we got to say. I know one thing. I got a pretty leisurely life right now. I got spring coming up. I am thinking about that, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But I do have some time. You know, I exercise pretty regularly, and fishing's been on my mind a lot lately. But I did receive a call the other day. A buddy of mine wanted me to just go be a part of a job. And it was nice getting out there and visiting with the guys. Man, it was cold and rainy, though. Doggone it. It just something always going to take a little bit of the pleasure away. But, you know, the pleasure was still there. And it was good seeing those guys again and seeing the things that they're out there doing and what some of the stuff held that we went through and trained on, and what of it didn't quite hang since we've been away from that job for a while, and no telling what kind of habits they got into working with other crews. I hope they were shining examples of how to do things. But anyway, enough of that stuff. We're here to talk about enjoyment of the outdoors and taking care of the community, taking care of each other, and taking care of, you know, physical needs, spiritual needs of people in our community. So that's what I'm grateful for. This so far, that's just past couple days. I'm grateful right now. I get to be here with you. But anyway, we're moving along. You know, I mentioned last week, and I can slow down. Hell, man, I don't know why I got to be in such a hurry. Open widget. It's so crazy thing. You know, I'm still learning all this stuff. Boy, this darn old audio stuff was giving me fits again today. So if you're listening to it and it sounds real bad, man, let me know, please. Somebody help a boy out, man. What's that old Grateful Dead tune? Somebody gives a darn about me. What is that? What song is that? Come on, somebody help me out. What song is that? Grateful Dead song. Uh, the verses go, I left my hometown in North Fork, Virginia. California was on my mind. Anybody, what is that song? All across Caroline. Then talking about the bus breaking down somewhere around Birmingham, and I think they finally caught a plane and flew into LA to meet it. I guess it's their story of making a show, or I don't know. You never know with the Grateful Dead. Anyway, so I don't know why I got off on that either. But anyway, uh, spring fever. I tell you what, this warm weather has got it flowing. Uh, I got an old poplar tree out here. Get y'all's opinion on. I got an old poplar tree out here. I built a garden, you know, a couple 3 years ago, and this old poplar tree, you know how they grow, like a weed. They are a weed, in my opinion, humble as it may be. But I have decided I'm gonna kill that tree. I ain't gonna cut it down. That's just that's a waste of resources that don't need to be. If somebody wants to come along and buy it, it ain't worth buying. I done looked at it. It ain't worth nothing. Not worth the trouble. So I'm going to drill some holes in it and put some of that Roundup in it and just kill it off that way through the root system. And I'm going to leave it standing. At least it'll knock some of the shade off that garden, and it'll go its way of natural decomposition. You know, the birds will have a place to perch, squirrels, and the insects will get it, and then it'll provide feed, and then it'll break down into earth, and over decades, I guess, then it'll be a good place for the new tree to put its roots in, and then start the process over. Anyway, that's one of the garden plans I've got. I got a bunch of them I gotta trim up. I'm not necessarily I'm chaotic, I guess would be the way to describe my landscaping. I try to leave things where they're at, and try to give it a path to fulfill its story and all the understory of it, all that grows underneath. And but I do like to have a little bit of grass, so I'll keep it trimmed back pretty tight along the edge of the road. Along the edge of the yard. But you can walk right out there, and it's just as the way it's been for 20 years or better. You know, no changes except for when the place was built or whatever. But you can walk through the forest and see the states of decomposition, and you can see the wildlife trails, and you know the signs, and it's obvious, and interesting. Everything from lizards to raccoons to possums to whatever. But it's all around us out here, and I like it. And I tend to share. I do keep winter greens. Every fall I plant kale, collard, and turnip, the kind that I can eat. And I just broadcast it, and it's got little shoots, and some of it makes it through the winter and some of it don't. But one thing's for certain, this time of year, these deer tracks in there trying to scrounge up something. So I'm glad I keep those and give them a place for respite and nutrition in these hard winter months for them. Now, son-in-law has collected rent on a couple of them over the years, and I appreciate it. You got to keep your herd healthy, whether you're raising cattle or you're raising squirrels or you're raising rabbits, raising whatever, bears. Those are resources, and if you can manage them on your little bit of property and give them a place, you never know. People say, I can't eat no rabbit. You can eat a rabbit, I promise you. I didn't get this big by not eating rabbit. Shoot. Old buddy of mine, Willie Tompkins. I don't know if he's still alive. Will, if you're still out there, buddy, I love you. And if you're looking down on me from heaven, I love you. He was telling me a story about going to the freezer, and the old hunters would always leave 1 foot on whatever it was. So if it was a raccoon foot, and you look down in there and you saw that old meat with a raccoon foot on it, and you knew that was raccoon. And that's the same with possum, the same. Anything else that went in there, that was inventory. I don't know how long they kept it, but you would eat it. I remember some old buddies of mine talking about when they was young boys that their daddies and things would catch them possums and raccoons and hem them up and feed them a real good diet for a while, and then there was protein. Everybody ought to know how to fish. Anyway, that's part of the story here. Raven County rag. Spring fever. So I guess we got into a little bit of other things, but I'd like to move into the plantings a little further. Uh, if you got some hay out there, some old hay or something, y'all let me know. I could use a little bit of old hay for some compost on the upcoming garden. I think last week I talked about I was going to try to be a no-till, and that's what I'm going to do. But I do need to have things like compost and manure and hay or straw for cover, just to try and maintain a healthy environment for the plants. And man, going to the Home Depot and all that crap and paying, and I don't blame a man for making a living, but I don't. I've seen those machines where they crush that compost up in it and they pile it up, and you don't know whether it's had lead paint on it. You don't know. You don't know. You don't know. Now, is it good for plantings that are non-edible? Yeah, sure. I don't know about the rest. I just don't know. I'm sure it's tested. I don't know. And anyway, I'm trying to get where I utilize things that are produced naturally. Anyway, so those kind of things, if you got, prefer cattle, but if you got horses, horse shape from a barn or something, I don't know. Y'all let me know. I need to research that, but I would take manure, especially if it had straw in it, which most of it does. And I can hold it a while. I can stockpile it and let it mix it with some wood chips, half and half. I don't know. And let it roast for a season or two. Okay, y'all, I'm on the satellite. So if this thing stutters, forgive me. I'm getting some poor errors here, but shoot. Before I got this Starlink, side story, I'm going to tell it because it's important, that I'm not going to bitch too much. I can live stream now. First moved up here. One service. Windstream. And it started out, I don't know, $60 a month, but all you could get was like 3 megabytes download. Enough to see a movie or watch TV, but then you couldn't get more than 1 or 2 devices on there because that sun gun throttle you down. And I was so sick and tired of it, and I always had outages, and I'd always have to call them up, and they'd always tell me the same thing: reset, repower, blah, 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 let me reconnect, bye, the same thing. And I got wind of Starlink. I said, Starlink? Really? Is that going to work? And I started doing my research and understanding the technology that was put into that. And boy, I put my name in the hat immediately. There was a waiting list, just like when I first bought a Harley, it was a waiting list. And a year, I was bragging, man, I'm getting me the Starlink, boy. And I was getting aggravated. And then it came. I got it set up. Went through the regular, learned the technology, set it up, and it's still not where it really needs to be. Maybe that's part of the reason I'm getting these poor signals. Summertime is worse because the leaves are on the tree. But it's too dangerous for this fat old man to get on the roof up there to mount that thing in an appropriate place. And I've been too cheap to pay somebody. But anyway, I kept both of them for several months. I would pay Windstream and it would just sit on the back burner, after I got the Starlink coming and started keying things in and making it happen and getting the network run in the base down here in the basement in the office, got the network run and all this stuff and tested it and ran some, and then downloaded one with with Windstream. It would take 12 hours to upload one 5-minute video. I'd go to the library and they thought I was a creep or something. I don't know. I was sitting back there uploading videos. Hell, I'm a citizen. I pay tax dollars. I can come in here and upload this, or or at the McDonald's or something, because Windstream was killing me, man. I was working in Atlanta and getting home on weekends and just trying to. Starlink ended all that. I right now, if I upload a video, at the most, I don't remember it being over 15 minutes. Even if it is, so what? I can clean up the office and clean the desk and all that while it's doing it. You know, and and in the interim, I still had that Windstream. I called them fools up, and when there was a problem, and then after a while, I just said. And then I was late with the payment one time, and they called me up, and I paid it right there on the phone. And I said, I would like to disconnect that service now. Do not bill me any further. And then they said, well, we can do this and we can do that. I said, I've been dealing with you guys for over 6 years. There is nothing in this world you can tell me that would get me to hook on you again. It is not going to happen. You guys have been terrible. The same stories you tell me month after month that I call because your service is so dismal. I said, I've got Starlink now. And I'm telling everybody I know just how good it is and what it costs compared to working with you guys, and the value added by being able to communicate effectively 100 times faster than what you offer. Well, I can offer you so much a month. I said, you're really having a hard time comprehending what I'm telling you, aren't you? Please disconnect the service and have a nice life. And it's always sounded like it was in a call center in India. I'm like, Akmal with a heavy Indian accent trying to pass himself off as Andy. Hello, this is Andy. Anyway, that was a side trip. I don't even remember we went that way, but that was several side trips. Anyway, the manure, the compost. I'm ready to get in the garden. I thought about it, and I got enough garden space. I don't have to go anywhere, but there was an ad in the local paper for the gardening club, and I think you can rent a 6-foot by 20-foot bed for $20. And I got, well, I have to drive over there and go tend it, and then come home and tend mine. And then I got to thinking about it. I wonder how many lessons I could learn just by joining that. That'd be my y'all. If somebody ever watches this thing, y'all let me know what y'all think about that. Should I join the local garden club or whatever it is for fun and entertainment? Ain't no telling. Anyway, so that brings me up to what's in your garden? What are you, how do you configure your garden? And I don't really need to know the size of your garden, but as a percentage, is it 20% tomato, 10% peppers, 40% corn, 10% okra, 5% squash? What's your mix? What mix do you have in your garden, and what do you put in your garden? I'm interested to know. Me, oh, just a typical family garden. I like a lot of tomatoes, but we normally have a pretty good variety. It's some heirloom. I'm always looking for an heirloom, non-GMO, just so that I could have that, and I plant them. and I always put the seeds back or something. So every year, part of the ritual is go through and look at the seeds and then start ordering, which I need to start doing now. And heirloom, and then like a beef boy or better boy, something you can slice and put on a sandwich. And then always a bush or two of Roma. Uh, Cherry tomatoes, got 2 or 3 cherry tomatoes. We eat those things, keep them on the counter. They're good snacks. Cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes are sweet, sweet, sweet. Um, and then, and then of course, I haven't been much into the annual herbs, but we do always plant basil and cilantro. And I love the taste of cilantro. And I normally let the seeds go back. I just let them fall in the garden. And, if they grow up and I say, oh, I'm going to leave that there, and then I'll leave that there, And then what I know is a weed, and I pluck it out. And sometimes, those little seedlings get plucked as well. But so, and then I normally just plant just maybe 15 or 20 okra plants, and I always plant them too close together, too close to something else, not enough sunlight, so I don't ever get very good production. But I will eat them. I mean, I do eat them. I'll eat them raw right out of the garden. And then always taking a potato and shoving it in the ground somewhere, or taking uh, garlic heads or garlic roots and just shoving them in the ground, and they'll pop up sometimes, and I'll let them grow. And if they make, that's fine. If they don't, that's fine too. At least I've got something there that can hold the soil in. And if it doesn't make anything, then it can be compost for the garden. So at least it gives the whole system something to work with. It and and I don't like laying that soil barren like I'd been doing over the years, but this soil was so rocky, and so I had to turn in the compost every year, bags upon bags, and wood chips, and just all kinds of stuff, trying to build the soil composition up, trying to minimize the amount of fertilizer. And my gardens don't ever get lush and big because I haven't fertilized them heavily with any kind of chemical. I use a little 10 10 10, and I put out some lime trying to soften that clay. Uh, like to do it naturally. I do keep all the eggshells and stuff like that and throw it in the compost. And boy, here it is again. Almost out of compost. Do have a couple loads of wood chips on top. Boys running the wood chipper kind enough when I'm nearby to drop off a load. What's the name of that company? Chip.com or something. It's a company that if somebody's working in your area and they want to dump, then they provide the service to tell you where they can dump. And if it's a free dump, then they might come see you. And if somebody wants to pay them for them, then they're going to go there. I don't pay them for it. Shoot, I'll keep working composting. I'd rather have hay. I think it'd break down quicker and provide better. But anyway, and so what's in your garden? Talk about that. I'd like to hear what you have in your garden, how you plant it. Sun comes up the same way. I don't get good sun. That's why I'm going to kill that tulip poplar, boy, because it robs the whole garden of that morning sun. And I hate doing it, but I'll take care of all the other ones best I can, just so I can have that little bit of sunlight. I think gardening is important. And I normally, for annuals, flowers, I plant flowers. So my wife can always have fresh flowers in her house. She can't ever say, well, you never buy me any flowers. I don't know too many dudes who's got that many flowers planted around their house for his wife. Zinnia. Boy, them zinnia, if you just wanted to plant some annuals that fade at the end of the year, those zinnias are really nice. They draw a lot of pollinators. And what I do is I plant them around the perimeter of the garden. Just dig a trench and sprinkle seeds in them. And sometimes they're thick and sometimes they're thin. I don't care. It ain't got to be uniform. and they come up. They start blooming about the same time vegetables do. So and then once they start, they just bloom all the time. You can go out there and pick them, and they'll keep producing. So if you want flowers in your house, you can do that. And then at the end of the year, we go out there and collect the seed heads. Collect all that they look like. I don't know what they look. I probably got some in there. If you want to see one, send me a message if anybody ever watches. Boy, I'm just rambling on with nobody watching. Good practice. Good practice. So zinnia, yeah, zinnia. If you just wanted to get started, and then and then in the spring you just break those seed heads up, and you've got seeds you could plant 100 times that much just out of collecting those seed heads. And so I started a couple beds up at the top of the hill here, and I've been thinking about just going around places and planting them weird places, you know. Who planted the zinnias? They have daffodils. They're coming out now, man. That old warm weather, warm few days there brought them devils out. That's what's got me thinking, man, I might ought to get busy on the garden. Gladiolas, I do have some gardenias. When I first moved here, I bought 2 gardenia bushes and put them at the corner on each corner where the steps go up the front door. And they're in a low spot. They was staying wet, and I knew that wasn't good for them. But it froze hard about, I don't know, a couple, 3 years ago, and killed them things dead in the door now. Just killed them, man. And they'd been there a while. They were getting big. They were nice. They did pretty good on the blooms. But here's the saving grace. As I cut them back, pruned them every year, I would take the fresh greens and cut some of the cambium off of them and stick them in the dirt in the wood line. And then I would stick them, I stuck a couple in pots in the garden. And I know I've got at least 2 of them in pots in the garden. So I do have some gardenias I could put out, but I want to find an appropriate place for them. I'd like to see them be healthy. I thought about putting them in the backyard. I'm trying to develop a little path out there, putting them at a split, you know, so you can see to go this way or you can see to go this way. Put them at the corner, kind of in that split to kind of direct you which way you wanted to go. I thought about that. But anyway, that's the highlights. So what kind of seeds do you get? You just run up there to the Wally World or the Home Depot and start gathering them up. I do that. But now, if you're buying bulk, and I may look at some garden seeds this year the same way. Go to Amazon. Things like collards and kale, and turnip. I buy them big old bags of them. Boy, I just go out there and broadcast them. I rough up the soil a little bit and just broadcast them. If they make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. Sometimes, and at first you'll get a bunch of little sprouts, and then there'll be a dry spell or something. Some of them won't make it. I got one bed out here. I don't think anything made it, and that was the darn kale. I don't think any of the kale made it. Turnips and collards are pretty hardy though, and there's a few of them out there, and they were getting big. And me and the grandboys out there the other day, and them other 2 beds is covered up with deer track. They in there eating them they're little, they're good. They ain't but about that big, done hardied over winter and put all that energy into surviving and to become and be nipped off by a deer. I bet that was good. I bet that deer enjoyed them greens. Oh, I could just imagine. Can't you? If you was hungry. So anyway, yeah, so seeds and I'll keep them a couple years, but I overplant in the seedlings. Do y'all start yours indoors or do you direct plant? Last year I started them indoors, and I think I'm going to do it again this year. I just think that's gives you a head start. They get a little leggy. I need to figure out what to do with that. Was the soil too cold and they're reaching for the light? I don't know. If y'all know, send me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on that, on seedlings, if anybody does that. And then, so do you have a brand? What is that? Morris Seed Company and Home and Garden. There's a couple different seed companies. I'm sure they get them it's like pencils on, they're all made by the same factory in China. Somebody just puts their name on them and markets them. And I'm pretty sure that there are very few pumpkin seed growers in the whole country. So I imagine there's some old boy out in wherever pumpkins grow the best has got the market on growing pumpkins for seed. I'm sure if you've ever made a jack-o'-lantern, you know how many seeds are in a pumpkin, and then he probably uses the pumpkins to make some kind of feed. And farmers, they're pretty smart. They don't let nothing go to waste either. That's a good idea. So that's what I do too. Trying to be a micro farmer. Those micro farmers getting big money from the federal government, I understand. Nah, y'all just stay on down the hill. I don't need you to come. I'll scratch by somehow. I don't reckon I need it. Sure is tempting from time to time. I take my Social Security. I paid a lot into that. I'm taking that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, so back to seeds. So tell me what kind of seeds. Anybody plant anything like carrots? Somebody specializing in garlic, got an acre of garlic. Maybe we can do some business. Anybody do big into herbs? Do you have a flea market? Do you have a stand somewhere where somebody wanted fresh herbs? They could come to the farmer's market or the flea market and enjoy some of your homegrown herbs with their dinner or in their dinner or however you want to define it. Yeah, tell us what you think. Tell us what you're doing with that. How about I guess I'm talked out on the gardening business now. This warm weather's got me thinking about fishing too. Kids took the grand boy the other day. He's a face full of smiles. They said they caught a bunch. Caught a bunch. I don't know if they kept them. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah, smiling from ear to ear. I think it was a bass and a crappie. Like that to me. All I could see was a smiling 4-year-old and some kind of fish. If you're 4 years old and you first start to understand, if you're a male or you're inclined to be male at 4 years old and you feel that first fish on the line, that's a moment of addiction. That is something that will bother you the rest of your life, and you'll always chase it. It's a terrible disease. It's like trout fishing too, buddy. That trout fishing is a god awful disease. Once it's in you, if you ain't doing it, you're thinking about it. You're building your own equipment. You're trying to learn how to tie flies. You're just thinking about it. Even if you're not on the stream, you're just thinking about it. And then when you get to the stream and you catch one, and you catch one on the tackle that you built, the fishing rod, maybe not the reel, but you built the rod yourself and it's to your design and for the conditions you fish in, and you built it that way. And a fly that you put your hands into to make, to present, and then to catch your quarry from its nature, and had it believe what you were offering. hunger overcame its trepidation. It looked close enough to be what it was hoping that it took it. And you did that. I guess I reckon that to me, standing on the pier in some beautiful seaside resort with a fishing pole in the water and watching the huge fish swim around. And then all of a sudden, out of the air, there is a hot dog hanging in front of me. And I haven't eaten in days. And that hot dog have a hook in it. I don't know who's got the other end of it. But you get the picture, right? Survival. Anyway, fishing. But then again, remember, sometimes it ain't about the fishing, but it's the scenery and the companionship. Sometimes that is what it's all about. All right. Companionship, relationship. I had relationship written. I've got show notes. I'm trying to keep you guys entertained or myself entertained. I love being here, but I keep looking at my watch, not because I'm ready to get off, to see if I got enough stuff to fill that and keep you entertained. If you decide to stop by and watch. If not, then I'm just talking to the ether. Maybe in 1,000 years, they'll find it as some crystal skull and they figure out how to read the information in that skull. They'll go, look at this guy. Could you imagine me somehow being a representative of the human race? I'm sure they'll see the Elons and the Trumps and I don't think the super intelligent or the artificial intelligent or the general artificial intelligent will recognize me other than anything than mundane. Anyway, I'm having fun. When Mark Twain said, I think I said that once before, he said, I might be a fool. I'm God's fool. So, I did read in the newspaper. I don't think there's any charges associated with it. If you want to send me a message, I'll get back with you on the details, but I think it's on the 18th of February. They're having a fly tying class in Clayton, and I think it's at the St. James Episcopal Church. I know they have chess. Yeah. They have chess games there. If you play chess, you can go there on Sunday afternoons and do. I thought about that stuff. I ain't lonely yet, man. So anyway, I think the fly tying class would be real good. I'd be asking, what kind of insect do you find here locally? If you're going to do that, if you're going to get into fly tying, hey, un momento, my Latino friends would say. I have this book. It's called Trout Stream Insects. It's by Dick Provost. He was a superstar in his time. I don't know if he still fishes. This book's pretty old. He was old and knowledgeable when he wrote it. But it's an interesting book. It has it broken down. And this is not how to tie flies. No, it's not. But it's reference. He talks about the types of flies. See that's a mayfly. Okay. You see that silhouette? That's what we concentrate on, the silhouette. Yeah, colors are nice, but the silhouette. Here's a caddisfly. Not that one. That one right here. That is a caddisfly. Oh, both of them are caddisfly. Look, it gives you a top view and it gives you a profile. See the profile right there is the profile. Okay. And then midges, another type that you can tie. Okay. Just keep the silhouette in mind. Okay. And then he talks about the life cycle. Yeah. That looks like a Georgia nymph right there, buddy. That one looks like a Georgia nymph. You know what a Georgia nymph is, don't you? That's a cricket. Shows you size references. Look, I'm on that fingertip. Yeah, see that? Yeah. Well. So, and then it divides it into eastern hatches, early darks. Yeah. Gives you references on hook sizes. Okay. And then when you want a recipe, there you go. There's a silhouette. There's the actual bug, and that shows you the size hook they are normally tied on. Number 10, 2XL. So the long shank. And then it breaks it down, like I said, into western hatches and eastern hatches. So if you know where you're fishing at, you can use this book. And I haven't done this in a while, but when I was a younger man, I would, you know, those little nets that you would get with an aquarium. I had one of those, and I used to wear a fishing vest, and I kept that thing in the bag, and I would put it in the water and lift up a rock and kind of scoop and look in that net and see what kind, if any, insect was in there. Pupa. And when you're fishing, you see the hatches going on. You see boom, boom. They're hitting the top of the water and they're dropping their eggs and then they fly off, and that's the end of their life cycle. They call those duns when they're done. That means its wings are wide open. It's just floating on the water. It's laid its eggs or it's fertilized the eggs. It's done. And they don't live for a short time, very short time. And in that short time, they got one purpose only, and that's to reproduce. That's how they do it. They live most of their life aquatically in the water as a larva, mosquito, you know, the little squiggly things. And if you're fishing a stream, you can check the slack water and you could see what kind are in there. And you'll see scooters and skaters, and you'll see all kinds of larvae in the water swimming away. And you can capture those, and it'll give you a couple of different things. It'll give you what, if you can match that fly, wet fly. You know, it sinks to the bottom and floats along, and the fish will eat it if you can replicate it. That's one. The second, you could get it in its pupal stage before it floats to the top, spreads its wings and flies. That's called a pupal. And you could tie a fly that looks like a pupal. And then you could tie a fly that looks like the actual insect as it's laying eggs. That'd be a dry fly. It's on top of the water, and thusly a dun is a dry fly normally too. You're imitating their natural food. That's the objective. So, first thing, if you're going to fish a river, is know what might be in the water. And that way you can plan your strategy. You fishing on the bottom, or do you fish at mid-column like it's swimming up to get on the top in a pupal stage? Or do you put it on top? That depends on seasons and weather and time. And this is another book. It gives you when any of these insects in this book have their time frame of hatching, whether it's in the morning or in the evening. This is just observations by hundreds of thousands of people that has put this information together, and it's through observation, being on the stream, watching the water fishing. Okay, years. It's not that big a book because you understand the concept. I got you. I got more books. Look, that top row, fishing, mostly trout. Anyway, if you got a varying opinion from what I've been talking about, let me know. Put something in the comments if you happen along this channel. Right now, it looks like I'm talking to nobody, but I'm getting practice talking about catching fish, because I've got spring fever. All right. Oh, got 15 minutes. That brings on to the next one. How about hunting? Turkey hunting. Anybody preparing for the turkey hunt? I have hunted turkey a time or two, but I was probably not in any condition to learn about it. That was in my late teens, early 20s phase, buddies and all that stuff. So I enjoy the scenery, and I understand they have a season, and I probably understand why they have that particular season for the health of the flock, or whatever they call them. Called crows a murder. My wife told me that. I asked her why, or why. It started by asking her why she was trying to get the crows around the house, and I was, oh, okay. So anyway, what's the strategies with turkey? I know they have a season, spring. Is that why? And does it have a time of day, a weather condition that's best suited for? What's the habitat for a turkey? What's their habitat? Do they like woodlands with openings in it, or do they prefer openings with a little bit of wood for cover, or what's their optimal conditions to exist so you have a large, healthy group of turkeys, flock, whatever you want to call them? That's what I'd like to know. They've been caught one or two on the trail cam around here, but we also do have a population of hawk and bobcat. So, and bear. And we've had chickens and and coyotes. So they slowly the chickens just one by one would disappear until there weren't any. One night the wife walked out there, a commotion, and the bear was taking off, had one of her prized birds in its mouth, broke her heart. She ain't had a chicken since. Me, I'm of the mind you buy 500 of them and let them loose and just make them catch on. I've been fishing, have old barred chicken come up to me wanting something to eat. Anyway, and then once you find that perfect place for the turkey, where their best habitat, and you find that wonderful habitat, what's the next step? They're there, man. The signs are there. You can hear, if you're there early in the morning, you can just hear them making their noise, and you've been there and you saw them come through, and you just can't wait for the season. That leads me to a question. I do a lot of walking, and in late winter, early spring, I don't want to tell them, do owls and turkeys have a relationship of some type? That's another thing I'd like to know. Do they have some interdependent relationship? Does one kind of take care of the other? Are they mortal enemies? Do they coexist? I'd like to know what that relationship is. If you know that, put something in the comments. Send me a message. I'd really like to know that. And then, what are your strategies? Do you still hunt? Do you stalk? Do you know where they're coming from and where they originate to, and you know enough about them where they're going to, and I guess the best word for it is ambush them on their way? They Is there a patch of clover or something they really like to hit every day and go by there? Is there a oak tree where they can eat acorns, or a special patch where a fungus grows they really enjoy? Or I, I'm just curious. What's your strategy? You hunt from a tree or on the ground? Anybody stalk them? I guess then the strategy is your weapon. I don't know what the minimum caliber is for a turkey. If you know, send me a message and let me know. How about what else is there? Oh, I seen these old boys hunt them with a bow with a crosshead. Doggone. I mean, shoot their heads clean off me. I don't know how far the shot is, but they got a hell of a camera. I know that. It's more than I can stand. I mean, I understand the necessity of killing, and it's not something that I relish in. I relish in the meal that I've received from my creator. The gory details is a necessity. I don't need to. I don't need to see it that way. I just don't. So, what can you black powder hunt them? What kind of would you use a broadhead for turkey hunting? I don't know. But these dudes are. I guess it's legal where they live at. Can you use a 22 Magnum? Can you use rimfire, or do you have to use center fire? Anyway, um, are you crouched in a field, or are you hidden in the woodland or woodline? Are you in just off and looking over a pasture or a field they like to, or meadow they like to be in? I don't know. Let me know how you do it. Uh, and then seasons. We know it's in the spring. Is there a particular time in the spring when the moon and sun are in a particular balance? It causes them to go into. Why do they have the hunt in the spring? Is it because of the reproductive cycle of the bird, or is it some other reason? They just decide to go, hey, let's just have it in March. Yeah, that's what we ought to do. Or is there some science behind it? If there is science behind it, I'd like to know what it is out of curiosity. Um, does weather, if it's raining, do they lay down, don't move, or do they get out there like it don't matter? They're just doing their same thing, whether it's 95 degrees or and hot and dry, or if it's 32 degrees and drizzle. Are they just, do they move in those time frames just like it was nothing, or do they wait till the middle of the day when the weather's moderate? I know the birds and the bird feeders, they feed in mid morning, just after sunrise. Sun get up, and then kind of late in the evening, maybe an hour before the sun goes down, they hit the bird feeders again. So they work in a cycle, and I would imagine the turkeys, being birds, probably have the same type of cycle. What's their diet? What's a turkey's diet? Help me out. Y'all help me out. Uh, but will they hunt? Do you hunt them when it's colder than hell, or hotter than hell, and wet as devil, or drier than the devil? I just wondered how the weather might affect them. So if I had hunting plans for Monday and there was a cold front pushing through, and should I go ahead and go hunt? Should I count on a full day, or just go see and be prepared to call it off after an hour or two, depending on what you know? Anyway, all right. Well, I got 5 minutes to fill. I covered all the rest of that. I wonder if I saved that. I don't know. I'll have to see when I get done here. Save my show. I like to save my show notes in case I ever have to go back. Uh, I know the feed has been kind of in error most of the night, a lot of yellow, and I'll check it later on. Uh, Man, I sure appreciate the opportunity to be here and be able to do this. I'm glad I have the resources to do this. And it is the purpose of this is to be uh, a community of like-minded people who care about their community, who care about their environment, who care about the wildlife, and want to preserve it and move it forward for the enjoyment of their children and grandchildren and great grandchildren. So uh, we can do that as a community. We can share resources, anything from food to fuel to whatever we need to do. Um, it's good to get to know somebody who might need your help. I know churches do a good thing, and the government waste and all this stuff is big in the news right now. They take so much that we do things so foolishly sometimes that we we need to get back to real. Need to get back to the relationships. People need to make things with their hands. Uh, I believe we should be self-sufficient in clothing, food, shelter, education. That should be something that the American people are 100% against. The rest of it is for. The rest of it is fluff. It's just fluff, and it's opportunity for someone who don't want to put their hands into it and their head into it and their heart into it. Gives them a means to survive the drudgery of what they might consider life. Um, we should all be joyful, but I know that if you're doing the same thing, same factory, it's hard to maintain joyfulness. You're doing a good job. Keep it up. And that leaves me 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I'm getting hungry, but I ain't got to get up in the morning. I did. I normally get up at 4:30, but when I had to go to that job a couple of days, I got up at 4. I just wanted to make sure I had everything, and it was all a paperwork and procedural thing to get these guys lined out. They just didn't have that particular resource, so I just went in and established some stuff that should be established so that they can do their job successfully. And I may go back another time or two. I don't know. Depends on what the owner thinks. I can't force myself onto anybody, but I do want to see them successful. That is a fact. And I'll do whatever I can. Unfortunately, I can't work for free when I have such a beautiful home. I'm sorry, man. Give up fishing and exercising and all that stuff. It has to cost something, right? I love every one of you. If there's anything I can ever do, and you're right here, not an hour away, I'll come and talk to you. Anyway, love you, AO. Love Dino. All right, boys and girls. 20 seconds. Once again, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. If you end up watching this thing and catch it somewhere and just catch this particular point, thank you. Thank you. And I promise to do this every Thursday night from 6 p.m. till 7 p.m. And that gives me a little while to get ready to go to bed. So that's it. Have a grateful day, and we'll see you